Let's talk about a feeling I think we all know. That strange, frustrating sense that something is holding you back, and you have a nagging suspicion that the something is actually you. We're going to explore that feeling together today.
I mean, of course you have, right? We all have. It could be about a huge life goal or just something simple you're trying to get done today. Sometimes it really feels like we are our own biggest obstacle. So in this explainer, we're going to look at this not as some kind of personal failure, but as a deep piece of human wisdom that so many traditions have tried to understand for centuries.
All right, so here we are, Chapter 1. Let's start with this core idea. This isn't about blaming ourselves, not at all. It's about getting curious. Why on earth do we do this? Why do we stand in our own way?
To start looking for some answers, we're going to turn to some of the world's oldest and wisest traditions, and I think you're going to be pretty surprised by the patterns that start to show up.
Okay, first up, let's look at Buddhist wisdom. The teaching here is at the real root of our struggle. It's internal. It's our own mind's habit of desperately clinging to things we want and at the same time forcefully trying to push away all the things we don't. This constant cycle of craving and resisting, well, it clouds our judgment. And, in effect, we end up building the very wall that blocks our own path to peace.
This line just captures that paradox so perfectly. The harder we grip, the more our desire just seems to escape us. Think about trying to hold water in your fist. You squeeze as tight as you can, and it just slips right through your fingers. But if you just gently cup your hand, the water rests there. The wisdom here isn't about giving up on what you want, but about softening your grip and letting things come to you without all that force.
The ancient Stoics saw a really similar problem inside of us. For them, we sabotage ourselves when we get obsessed with things that are totally outside of our control. When we pin all our happiness in something external, like what somebody else thinks about us or whether we get that job, we basically just hand over all of our peace of mind to anxiety and fear. Our own frustration then becomes the very thing that paralyzes us.
So the Stoic solution is really all about focus. Pour your energy into the things you can control. Your effort, your attitude, your actions. Prepare for that test with everything you've got. And then you have to gracefully accept the outcome, whatever it is. The fear of what might happen should never be the reason you don't even try.
Now, from the very practical Stoics, let's turn to the mystical tradition of Sufism. For the Sufis, the obstacle is really personal, so much so that it has a name, the nafs, which is the ego. And this isn't just about pride. It's the whole collection of our fears, our insecurities, all our illusions about who we think we are. And it acts like this thick veil, hiding what our heart, our deeper self, actually wants.
So the path forward here isn't about fighting. It's about surrender. Now, that doesn't mean giving up. It means consciously letting go of that smaller, more fearful, ego-driven part of yourself so that the deeper, truer wish of your soul can finally come through without all that static and interference from fear and pride.
Hindu philosophy gives us this amazing concept, dharma. You can think of it as your righteous path, your higher purpose, or your unique role to play in the universe. The problem starts when our personal wants and our desires are out of sync with our dharma. This misalignment creates a kind of civil war inside of us, a state of conflict and guilt and anxiety that becomes a roadblock we've built ourselves.
See, the goal isn't to crush our desires, but to align them with our bigger purpose. When what we want for ourselves is also what serves our righteous duty, that inner conflict just dissolves. There's no more friction, no more guilt holding us back, and the path forward just becomes clear because all the different parts of you are finally moving in the same direction.
In this idea of removing that inner friction, it brings us right to Taoism and this beautiful idea of Wu Wei. It's often translated as effortless action. Taoists noticed that nature doesn't struggle. A river doesn't have to strain to get to the sea. Their insight was that our own anxious, forceful effort is usually the very thing getting in the way. It's like we're trying to push the river.
What a perfect metaphor. The wisdom here is to just stop resisting and pushing against the current of life. Instead, we can learn to align ourselves with that natural flow. It's about trusting the process, doing our part without all that force, and then discovering that what we need often arrives without a constant draining struggle. So we're seeing this incredible pattern across all these ancient ways of thinking. But this idea of the internal obstacle, it's not just a thing of the past. It's also found in much older primal wisdom and, you guessed it, modern thinking too.
So now we're going to see how this exact same fundamental idea shows up in indigenous wisdom and even in the offices of modern-day therapists.
Many indigenous traditions from all over the world talk about living in balance and harmony. And from this point of view, when we hold on to these really heavy emotions like fear or anger or deep self-doubt, we actually create a blockage. This inner disharmony disrupts the flow of life, and it stops blessings and good things from finding their way to us.
So the remedy, from this perspective, is to cleanse the heart, to release that fear and bring back that inner harmony. It's an active process of building trust. Trust in life, trust in a higher power or great spirit, and trust in your own path. It's that trust that allows the door to your own heart to open up again, letting all those blessings flow right in.
And this brings us right into the world of modern psychology. I mean, therapists see self-sabotage all the time. They point to our unconscious beliefs and these inner conflicts as the real culprits. We might consciously want something, but deep down, an unconscious part of us is terrified of failing. Or, and this is the really weird part, sometimes it's even terrified of succeeding and all the changes that success might bring.
So the work in therapy is really about bringing these unconscious fears out into the open, into the light of awareness. It's about challenging that quiet little inner voice that tells us we don't deserve success, or that it's just going to bring new problems we can't handle. The whole goal is to build a unified will, where every part of you is on the same team, working together and clearing away those internal barriers.
Okay, we've traveled from ancient monasteries all the way to modern therapy rooms. We've heard from mystics, from philosophers, and from healers. So after all that, what is the grand, unifying answer that they're all pointing towards?
Well, despite all the different words they use, nafs, dharma, unconscious beliefs, the diagnosis is exactly the same. The obstacle is not out there. It's the ego's illusions and its fears. It's our desperate clinging to outcomes we just can't control. It's that inner conflict and the resistance to life's natural flow. The obstacle is, and it has always been, within.
And that, believe it or not, is the most empowering news you could ever get. Because if the obstacle is within us, then so is the solution. The power to remove it has been right there with you this entire time. And that just leaves us with one final powerful question. The key is in your own hand. So, what door will you unlock?